Good morning. I would like to introduce you today to Rabbi Ron Simons. I know I hear about you a lot, and I know you're doing a great job. What year your center was open?
Well, let me just begin by saying I'm so glad that we're having this conversation and sharing it with so many people, because this is the essence of what it means to be a good neighbor. Just get to know somebody, really get to know somebody. So we started the Center for Loving Kindness in 2017, 5 years ago. And we did it because during that year or the year before, in 2016, the national election caused us concern. It wasn't the concern about who would ultimately win, no matter what our personal preferences are. The concern was that there was so much bad conversation going on, that people were demeaning each other, and the level of conversation had gotten to such a low point that you couldn't actually be in conversation with someone that you disagreed with. It always became an argument. And so we thought, what if we were to take the work that we had been doing as a Jewish community center for 125 years here in Pittsburgh, which was all about love your neighbor as yourself and do not stand idle while your neighbor bleeds. And what if we were to make an extended focus on being able to share those values that many of us share with the community at large? And so we began in 2017.
I know you support and help many different races. When I come to your community, your group, I saw many different people from different race, different nation, different countries. What you try help them with?
So it's a great observation, because we don't believe that you have to be just one way in our world. In fact, how boring would that be? Right? Imagine if you went to Baskin Robbins and there was just one flavor of ice cream.
Yes.
Right? We want there to be variety, not just on the most superficial level of what kind of ice cream do I like, although that's kind of important, but we want there to be a lot of variety in community. So we know that no two people are exactly the same. And we know also that no two religions are exactly the same, no two races, no two cultures, no two national backgrounds, etc., etc. So we want to be open to everybody. Everyone belongs here in Pittsburgh. In fact, one of our mottos is that our goal is to make sure that every neighbor in Pittsburgh can say 3 sentences and actually mean them. I belong to Pittsburgh, Pittsburgh belongs to me, and we belong to each other. If I were to just do that with people like me, Jews or white people, then I wouldn't be achieving the goal of creating a diverse community that embraces differences, not just tolerates it, but embraces and celebrates differences in a way that is a part of the fabric that has so many different threads. I mean, even just look at your beautiful blouse. And you do these, you hand make these, right?
Yes.
Did you make this one?
No, this is a gift from my sister.
It's beautiful, but I can imagine that in your work, right, as you're stitching, it's not just with one color of thread. You have to have so many different colors of thread. I'm not using the color of thread as just about black and white and Asian and whatnot, but that we need to have a rich tapestry of who we are as neighbors here in Pittsburgh. So we wanted to make sure that people had what would bring them comfort. So we decided that we would bring together Jews and Christians and Muslims to learn how to cook food from Afghanistan. And we learned that from people that were already here, neighbors who have roots in Afghanistan. And they taught us 3 dishes, and then we cooked, and we cooked, and we cooked. And we made enough food for 100 families to have their first week of food reminiscent of the home country.
How you decide, you start talking about Afghanistan people, how you decide help refugees?
Well, because we know what it's like to be a refugee. The Jewish community has a long history, not just in America, but throughout our history of being wanderers. You might remember, if you're familiar with the Bible,
Yes.
the Hebrew Bible, that in the book of Exodus, we were slaves. The Jewish people, the Israelites, were slaves in Egypt. And then we wandered throughout the desert. And throughout Jewish history, right, we have been wanderers. And we know because it reminds us, it commands us in the Hebrew Bible 36 times. The one commandment that is repeated more than any other commandment, like more than even believe in God, is that you should love the stranger because you were strangers in the land of Egypt. So that's at the core of who we are and our sympathy and our empathy for people that are in transition. And that's true from way back when. And of course, it's true in modern history from the 19th and 20th century of the great migration of Jews from Eastern and Western Europe, well, mostly Eastern Europe, right, during the Holocaust and the pogroms before that. And so we have a great sense of empathy, but the key to it is that it's not empathy as in, oh, we're going to help those poor people. It's empathy that this is the right thing to do. This is what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to love the stranger. And how better can you love somebody than to give them a bowl of comfort? And a bowl of comfort where we've made every effort to figure out a little bit more about your culture so that we're now enriched as a result of it.
And you're doing this for 5 years already.
Yeah.
Have influence of Russian aggression in Ukraine have in your community? How do you figure out you want to welcome Ukrainian refugees also?
That's great. So you might remember also that there's a large Jewish population from Russia and from
Yes.
Eastern Europe. And in the 1990s, there was a large influx of immigrants to Pittsburgh from Russia who were Jewish. And they have now integrated into the community at large. When we talk about today in 2022, we're just waiting to hear more from an organization like Jewish Family Community Services. All right, we know we're going to have an influx of Ukrainians coming to Pittsburgh, becoming new neighbors here in Pittsburgh. And when we find out that that's the case, what we did for our new neighbors from Afghanistan, we'll try to adapt for our new neighbors from Ukraine. And, it's just so heartbreaking, right? Just to think what people are going through and how displaced people are, those that actually left Ukraine and now are dispersed across Europe. And it's so heartbreaking for those that decided to stay or couldn't leave and the pain that's going on. But again, there's something about doing it here locally. So I'll give you an example. When everything started to happen with the war in Ukraine, we had to figure out what should we do? What could we do? And we knew that if we sent something to Ukraine, we weren't quite sure who to send it to. And we weren't quite sure, what kind of impact it would have. Now, it's very different than the work that you're doing because you actually have people, family and friends that you can send to and community members to. But we wanted to have some kind of impact. We wanted to give people something to do. So we reached out to our larger JCC community, the community at large, and we had somewhere in the area of 1,200 people sign their names on
Wow.
banners that said, "You are not alone, we care about you." And people wrote little messages on
This is
them.
very nice.
Isn't that beautiful?
It's amazing.
And instead of sending it overseas to Ukraine, where quite honestly, I would imagine that in the midst of war that would get lost, we shared them with two churches, including your church here in Pittsburgh, to say to Ukrainian neighbors, we care about you. And I got an email from someone who I've never met before, who said that every Saturday morning, she and her brother have the responsibility of opening up the church. And when she opens up the church and she sees that banner that says, "You are not alone," she pauses for a moment and cries. Because she's not alone. And she knows that we're connected to each other.
Yes, I understand you completely because when this war started, I have many people who I never know before, who was stranger for me. They would just come and they won't just talk because they feel sad, but they need the sadness speak up. They need talk to some other people who understand them because not everyone will be understand what they're going through.
That's right.
And I think sign like that is very powerful.
Yeah.
Because when you look at that sign, you know you're not staying alone.
That's
You
right.
know you have people who stand up for you, who support you. Maybe not physically, maybe not monetary, but they
Right.
support you with prayers. They support you with the mind, and it's very, very powerful.
And we support people because we're human beings.
Yes.
It's humanity. And we've done the same thing in Buffalo with a banner, right, to people in the top store, and people have responded to us in that way. When the Uvalde shooting happened in Texas, we collected over 3,500 stuffed animals for the children of Uvalde. 3,500. People from Beaver County, right, say, "Can I drop off?" I'm like, "Yeah, of course, please." And it's a matter of when you see that people are having challenges, how in some way can we, even if we can't fix the challenge, how can we show that we stand with you? We stand up with you.
I think this the more important now in this world for many different people to understand. Doesn't matter what your religion, doesn't matter where you're from, to feel this power of somebody support you. Feel power when you come and somebody listen you. Because by the years, I think people forget what they listen, but they don't hear what these people say. But like a community like that, like yours group, they support, because when you invite me for your event, and I saw people, refugees from different countries, it was very nice. It was like this power. Yes, you accept us, Ukrainian community. You support us. You know what's going on in Ukraine, and you stand with us.
That's right.
And I think this, when I send a message to my friend, to my family in Ukraine, and tell them you're not alone, they say yes, we can do it. Because sometimes in situation like that, and nobody tell you any word, you start losing your power. You think nobody cares. But when they see little messages like a banner from you, little hearts from American kids who say we stand with you, they say, yeah, we're strong, we can do it, and we can support and protect our families. It's very nice. And you did this event, one event, when you invite people from different refugees area, from different charities. Are you planning something in the future to again something like that? What is bring community together? What is bring to share them sorrow, happiness, like together?
So we do that throughout the year based on different Jewish holidays. My guess is that the next time that we'll do something of that sort will be in the spring when we celebrate Passover. Because of course Passover is the story of the Exodus from Egypt.
Yes.
And if we can do that focus again, right, and say, we know that as Jews around the world throughout history have sat down and said we were once slaves and now we are free. How can we turn that energy of ours towards people who still need more freedom today? And so yes, there will be more events of that sort.
And one more question. Now we're looking for people who can support refugees who come from different countries in learning English like second language. Do you have any plans in your community to do something like this for people?
Sure. So again, Jewish Family and Community Services has English as second language classes. So we know that our job from the Center for Love and Kindness is about framing the conversation. It's about the empathy. It's about lifting up, amplifying those values of love your neighbor as yourself and do not stand idle while your neighbor bleeds. And then we also know that there are other organizations that have expertise in helping people in that way. And we're just waiting for the phone call, right, to say, here's what the next challenge is. Would you be able to help in this way? And we'll say, yes, we can help.
It's wonderful. And thank you for today, a little conversation. And I can say I'm glad I have opportunity to meet you, and to talk to you and meet your workers who's helping you. It's amazing people. I hope we will be working future.
I'm glad we're neighbors.
Loving neighbors.
That-